Brandon has a question. He says, how does the show feel about using a 457B instead of a taxable bucket for early retirement?
Oh, good question.
Love it. Plain and simple. It's amazing. So for those of you that are not familiar, we talk all the time about like 401ks, 403bs. They're fantastic employer-sponsored retirement plans. And you can do salary deferrals into those. And in this present year, 2024, if you're under 50, you can put $23,000 as a salary deferral. But even if you have a number of different employers and you have access to a number of different 401ks or 403bs, you only get $123,000. So it's sort of a limiting factor in terms of what you can put in unless you have access to a 457. And this is what's really great. 457 is actually a separate part of the tax code where you do not have to aggregate the contribution. So you can contribute to a 401k or a 403b up to the $23,000, and you can also contribute to a 457. So it allows for some really, really exciting tax incentivized savings, whether you're doing on the pre-tax side or on the Roth side. But it's not just how you get the money in that gets exciting with 457s. It's also exciting how you can get the money out of 457s.
Yeah, if you think about it, most of your 401ks, your 403bs, they have unique privileges where if you retire or have separation of service post 55, you get access to the assets penalty free. But if you ever rolled it into an IRA, you don't get access to those penalty free until 59 and a half years of age, which that's a problem. But here's the thing. So the government has is the 457 as part of the tax code where this was all designed through legislation. And this is typically governments, not-for-profits. And if you think about it, a lot of your military, a lot of your firefighters, a lot of your police officers, these people actually retire much sooner because they get in young, they put in their 30 years, they get pensions, but they also, there's a sad thing is that a lot of times public service people like police officers and firefighters, a lot of the actuarial research, they don't live as long. So I think that there was some when this was all designed, there was a desire to make sure that we gave access to these public servants, to get to their money without penalties. So it's great. So here's, with all that, the history and so forth, understand 457s don't have an early withdrawal penalty. So you could, if you're a part of the FINE movements and you're retiring early or you're transitioning to a next endeavor and you want access to your money in your late 40s, this is what you want to do. So definitely, when I'm looking at 457s versus 401k, 403b, I always say, when will you need the money or need access to the money? And if you have access to a 457, get in there and get that benefit. Now, if you are a doctor and you have great income coming in, or you're an executive at a not-for-profit or something, you have great income coming in, you get the double dip opportunity in the fact that not only do you get to load up typically the 401k or 403b that they have, but you also get to load up the annual contributions to the 457 where you really are double dipping on your savings. And that's awesome. But for the typical person who's working in a hospital or working in the military or working, as a public service, whether it's being a police officer or a firefighter, yeah, definitely take advantage of this. Enjoy kind of a reward for your service and giving to all of us.
The only other thing that I would throw out there is that you want to make sure, this is one of those things, you want to begin with the end in mind. You want to have an idea of what your future financial life is going to look like. Because while we do love 457s, the way that the question was posed is, should I do that instead of an after-tax brokerage account? Well, I don't know. It depends. After-tax brokerage accounts, you can get to at any point in time without tax consequences other than like capital gains if you have embedded gains. With a 457, if you've been doing pre-tax contributions, when you go to pull that money out, even if it is before age 59 and a half, you're still going to have to pay ordinary income tax on that. So every dollar that goes into the plan may be fairly expensive for you from a retirement standpoint. So if you're someone who's trying to control your tax situation later on, or maybe you have an idea of where your tax bracket is today versus where you think it'll be in the future, or maybe you live in a high income place now and you're going to move to a low income or a high state income tax versus a low state income tax or vice versa, you may want to think through that, because for one person, contributing to the 457 might make the most sense, but for another person, it might make the most sense contributing to an after-tax account. They are not equivalent. So you need to understand that going into that, and that's why personal finance is very much personal. You have to figure out what makes the most sense in your unique situation.